Ma'am Susan, I've tried my possible best to see your daughter improve academically, but she's still lacking behind. I don't really know what to do next because I'm really exhausted, Teresa, Esther's class teacher said. Please, you've to put more effort. I can't afford to see my daughter been an illiterate while her parents are highly educated, Susan said, pleading with Teresa. I can double your money if you don't mind. I just want to see my daughter improve in her studies, she added. This is not what money can solve, Mrs. Susan. Your daughter looks so absent-minded when lessons are going on, she can't even say what I said last in class. Oh my God, this has gotten out of hands. What do you suggest, Teresa? She asked inquisitively. Teresa paused for a while and continued. I suggest extra lessons should be conducted at home for her. She needs a home teacher who will spend quality time with her and strengthen her weaknesses. I would have loved to conduct the lessons for her myself, but my schedules are extremely tight. Where can I find a good home teacher that will inculcate the right mind into my daughter? I want her to be a genius just like me, Susan said, looking worried. Don't worry, ma'am. I will email you the number of a male vibrant teacher I know. He is excellent in what he does. Are you really sure of it? Yes, Ma. A lot of students that passed through Prof. Dan changed automatically. In that case, I will love to see him at home and have a talk with him, she said happily. Susan hopped into her Mercedes and drove off. Esther is a young, beautiful, and fair girl with gap teeth and dimples on her cheeks. She has a nice, curvy body. She's just 17 years in SS1. She used to be an intelligent girl and educational sound. But everyone became surprised on how she began to go down academically. She bears a great burden in her heart, which has been troubling her. The beating her mom passed through every night in the hands of her father makes her to be emotionally down and lazy in academics. She tried to fight through, but the burden was heavy on her. She doesn't want to disclose it to her classmates nor teachers. She kept it all to herself. The next day, it was a Saturday morning around 8 a.m. Esther was staring at the pages of her textbooks when she heard the bell sounds. She rushed to check who was at the door. She opened the door and saw a gentle-looking man putting on an eyeglasses, neatly dressed with his tie well knotted and beards well carved. Good morning, sir, she greeted, still staring at the man because he looks unfamiliar. Good morning, little cutie. How are you? I'm fine. Please, who are you looking for? She asked. Let him in, Susan said, walking into the parlor with 2 cups of coffee. Esther shifted from the door as the gentle-looking guy walked in. You can have a seat, Susan said, pointing at the couch beside him, which he sat comfortably. Esther, I have spoken with Mr. Dan, and he has agreed to be your home teacher from now on, Susan said. A home what? Mum, did I ever told you that I needed a home teacher? I'm okay with the lessons in school. I don't think a home teacher is necessary, Esther said with a sad look. Listen, my daughter, I really love you and want the best for you. Mr. Dan here will teach and inculcate knowledge into you so that you will be just like the most intelligent girl in your class you always wished to be. He has helped a lot of students. I believe he will help you too. I will leave you guys here, so introduce and get to know yourselves better, Susan said, leaving the room. There were absolute silence until Professor Dan broke it with a question. Why were you so angry with having a home teacher? Are you scared of learning? No, I'm not scared, she replied with a strong voice. Your mom, I've told me a lot about you, and I'm here to help you bounce back to your normal form, Professor Dan said slowly. Esther raised her face and looked at him without saying a word. She waved her head with a weak smile on her face. After some minutes of the introduction, the lesson began, and within hours, the ended. Esther was happy. She understood every word of Prof. Dan. The lessons continued from days to weeks, and weeks turned into months. Esther began to improve gradually. One faithful Saturday, something unimaginable happened. Mrs. Susan has hurriedly left the house to attend to an emergency at the office. Kelvin, Esther's father, didn't return last night as usual. Esther was all alone going through her previous notes and waiting for Professor Dan to arrive. After some couple of minutes, he arrived. I'm so happy seeing you going through your note, he said with a broad smile. Thank you, sir. I've started to fall in love with my books. That's so interesting to know. Is your mom around? He asked. Nope. She hurriedly left earlier, Esther innocently responded. What about your daddy? I haven't been seeing him since I started teaching you. I have a broken home, sir. My father and my mum aren't in good terms for a while now. He beats my mum often whenever he is around. After the last fight with her, he angrily left and had never returned. Since then, she managed to say as tears clouded her eyes. This made me to be academically lazy, she added. I'm so sorry. I didn't intend to make you feel bad, he said, adjusting to where Esther was seated. He gently crossed his hands through her shoulders. Are you all alone? He whispered. Yes, Professor Dan, she replied almost immediately. All right then, let's keep off with the lesson. Our topic today will be the human body system in biology, and this lesson is going to be practicalized, he said, with his one eye closed to know how she will react to it. That will be an interesting topic. I really want to know more about the human body, she said happily. Prof. Dan was so excited that she responded positively to the topic. He thought within himself that this could be the right time to have her. It's been a while he picked interest on her curvy body. He kicked off with the teaching without wasting a lot of time. After a while, he paused, staring at Esther, who was also staring at him too. Esther, how do you feel? Do you feel anything in your body? Did my explanation made you feel somehow? He gently asked with his eyes fixed on Esther. I am okay, she managed to say. I understand how you feel at the moment, and I can help you with it. Prof. Dan said. His voice sounds low and seductive. He drew nearer, placed his hand on her thighs as she began to shiver, her body responding to his touch. Are you okay? He asked, his eyes fixed on her. Yes. Yeah, I'm okay, she said. Prof. Dan began to take his hands deeper. Esther immediately hid of his hands. What is wrong with you, Esther? He asked furiously. I'm sorry, sir. I don't think I can do such. That wasn't among the lessons my mum paid for, she said. Who told you that? This is the practical aspect of the lesson, and I will report to your mum about this. He stood and angrily walked away. Prof. Dan didn't stop there. He kept on coming up with different strategy to get Esther to his bed, but she kept backing out. She became afraid of Prof. Dan. She began to see the different side of the cool, gentle-looking guy she first met the first day. Her heart skips always when it's Saturday. Mum, there is something important I really want to tell you about Prof. Dan. She rushed to Susan, who was about to leaving. I don't want to hear you. Professor Dan has explained everything to me. I don't really know why you're like this, Esther. I've been trying my possible best for you, but you chose to remain just the way you are. Susan spoke authoritatively. Sadness could be seen on her face. Esther, you have to do whatsoever he told you to do, or else I will deny you as my daughter because I can't give birth to an illiterate. She thundered and left the house. She stood still, speechless, as tears flowed down her cheeks. She tried talking to Teresa about Professor Dan, but it seems as if he had reached out to them before her. None of them seems to give her a listening ear. They harasses her before she could even say a word. I don't really know what is happening. It seems that the world is really against me at the moment. I don't know what Prof. Dan has discussed with them. I personally know that what he's trying to do to me isn't good, and I won't let him do it, even if no one believes me, she murmured within herself. This time, I will be more rude to him. I believe that the world will get to understand me someday, including my mum.